Okay, and thanks for tuning in to our Unchurched Ministry uh, broadcast. I'm your host, Hubbard. I know y'all hear me. I'm doing some things on the background before I come online. Um, and just like with anything, we're dealing with technology and making sure everything good. So now y'all should be able to see me. So what we're going to go over uh, is the prophetic word for 2020. And a lot of times, uh, uh, what I want you to understand is that if you hear a prophetic word and you get what I'm saying, it feeds into your spirit. Please don't go searching for every prophetic word for 2020 that you see, because that's one of the things that a lot of you get caught up in. Is always reaching for a prophetic word and looking for 5, 10 prophetic words. So I'm not going to be with you long. Of course, I got other things to do, but I had to go ahead and do this because it was pressing in my spirit. And I think we did it on the other ministry website maybe about 2 months ago. But God speaks different when He sees things moving different. So these just a couple more things that I may have added on to previous word that you may have heard me speak in earlier years. The first thing we're going to understand, what I want you to understand, God told me, He said, the year 2020 will be the year of sound to sight. That means from your mouth to your eyesight. And what He was and the way He was relaying it to me is that you that have been faithful and understand the need of the people in this season, whatever you need, when you speak it, it shall appear. Because a lot of people have gotten into ministry not for the saving of the souls, but for the filling of the pockets, as I'm gonna say. You after the filthy lucre. So what we have to realize is that this is a year of sound to sight, and when you understand the year of sound to sight, this is actually another thing with you. This is a year of faith for you. He didn't come out and say faith, and I asked him why he don't want. He said, "I don't want to say faith because many people don't understand his kind of faith." So he said, "I want you to say sound to sight." See, because he understands faith has been corrupted by leaders who are looking to fill their coffers with your money. So I know the church taught y'all to go lay hands on it and claim it. That's not God faith. I know He told you to go march around the building, go march around the house, and it's yours by faith. That's not God faith, because God faith says in the book of Hebrews, now faith, if the substance of things hoped for, evidence not seen. So once you listen to the false prophets, once you listen to the prosperity preaching, and you go find what you want and you walk around it and you lay hands on it, you sleep with it, it no longer becomes an object of faith, but it becomes an object of a vision. Now you have to work for it. See, now faith is the evidence of things not seen. So now in this season, we got to deal with that faith being taught in error because the prophet got you hyped up, and now you going around here laying hands on stuff. So even though you get it, it wasn't by faith, it became a vision, because faith will give it to you when you ain't got a dime to put on it. Sound of sight. So that means you got to operate in the correct faith that's given by God. Not this prophetic mess that they've been giving you over the years. The first thing he told me about 2020, he said, son, I'm going to be operating in a accelerated time frame. So not only that you got to deal with sound and sight, he said accelerated time frame. What's accelerated time frame? That means something's going to happen quicker than you understand. See, and that's what you want me to tell you, because people going to ask why he operated accelerated time frame. He said because so many of you are behind. You done got up under these leaders that control your every move, control your money, control who you talk to. So you behind. You behind. We're going to deal with it on down there. You are behind. Because a lot of you who going to hear this message, you sit in the church, you uncomfortable. You know that you ready, but the leader keep telling you that you ain't ready. I ain't telling you just go out there. I'm talking about the people who know they ready. I ain't talking about because you see sister so-and-so and brother so-and-so got a big following, you want to go preach. I'm talking about you got to be ready. I was at my cousin's church down in Birmingham maybe about 2-3 weeks ago, and that's one thing she preached on. And I did the last 10 to 15 minutes, and I said the same thing. I said, people got to understand. When you come out as a preacher of a gospel and you stand behind this pulpit, when you turn this live stream on, when you go on Facebook Live, and when you declare the word of the Lord, you got souls at stake. Because I know people now, and I still haven't done it. That God is angry. He told me to call them, send them a text. He said, tell them they got blood on your hand. Because many of you said you was in ministry because you didn't get the following. You didn't get the financial backing. You have left people in limbo because they believed in your ministry and tried to follow you. But because you didn't get it quick enough, you left. And I'm looking at your Facebook page. You ain't talking about God. You ain't talking about salvation. You selling T-shirts. You selling books. You selling movies. You doing everything but the gospel. Number one, that proves to me what I already know. I was telling my mom. That's why I told you they wouldn't call. Because when you really call, and they talking about it's like fire shut up in your bone. Whether one person receive you or nobody receive you, going to preach. See, y'all waiting for an audience. That's why you ain't got no ministry. It took me 5 years for somebody even sent me $1. It took me 5 years to realize what God was calling me to preach because it wasn't popular. And a lot of you don't have popular ministries in this season, but because your leader don't understand what God calling you to, they holding you hostage, talking about you ain't ready, but you know what God's speaking in your head is going against what you've been taught. He did it to me. See, 2020 is a trailblazer season. That means you're gonna say stuff that's gonna upset people that been taught in religion. That's why you see that name up there, Unchurched Christian Ministries. I left my cousin church in Birmingham. I was on the way home, and most of you know, they said, well, why Brother Hubbard ain't been saying that? Why he ain't do such and such? God didn't tell me to do such. When I got back over in the Florida, he said, I want you to open up a church called Unchurched Christian Ministry. He said, I want you to go get people that ain't got nothing to give to you. Nothing. He said, all I want them to know is who I am in them. He said, unchurched. What that mean? That goes a different way. That means a lot of y'all that been church, you got to come over and see what I'm saying so you become unchurched too. Because see, religion has you bound in this. It's not a box, it's an octagon. They'll let you go as far as you can go, but when it hurts their bottom line, boom, they lock you in. That's why he say he got to move in an accelerated time rate, because a lot of y'all behind. So when you really get to where you need to go, your ministry gonna grow faster than what you thought, but you out of order right now. Oh, you don't want to connect it to somebody that he told you don't connect it to, but because they popular, because they familiar, you don't went to them, and now your ministry just still sitting there at a snail pace, and you supposed to be running like a rabbit. He said he's operating at a 4-to-7 ratio. 4-to-7 ratio in this accelerated time frame. What does a 4-to-7 ratio mean? That means when God gives you something, when he what's the word I'm looking for? Confirm something to your spirit. What would have took 7 months will only take 4. Why 4? Because 4 is the building process of where he needs you to be, and the 7 represents you're going to be in that cycle that you ain't going to do nothing but grow. And then when you add them up and you get to 12, that's government authority. You will be under God's protection. A lot of y'all ministries are not being protected by God because you believe so much in man. Number 2, he said, son, tell him this. He said, I'm declaring the next thing. He said, I'm declaring a mandatory release in 2020. I said, mandatory release? I said, God, that sounds like prison. He said, that's what religion has me in prison. He said, I'm pardoning all of them if they just get in the right place. A mandatory release. That means a lot of y'all gonna become so uncomfortable that you got to leave the place that you in. A lot of your leaders, I ain't talking about everybody. If you got a good leader, that's good. But I know a lot of y'all are sitting under people who care nothing for you, but only what you can do for them. I tell them on Facebook, I said, you want to really know the heart of a leader? Stop giving to them and see what happens. Stop giving to them and see what happens. Mandatory release. See, a lot of y'all stop building because your ministry was fire when it first started, and then people started dropping off. This is what you got to understand about God. He don't care about people. People will come because he'll send the people. He want to make sure that it's in your heart. You got to be consistent. Y'all who follow me when I first started, y'all, you see me go in different states preaching and all that. I'm here to tell you, sometimes it was 1 people. Sometimes it was just me and whoever I invited to speak. See, y'all didn't see the behind the line. Sometimes it was 20 people. Sometimes a couple of 100 people. Sometimes with 3 people. But I know what I heard was in my heart, so I kept going. See, when you building a church, you got to understand. When you being a man who understands plant ministry, and a lot of you young preachers got to see this. It really takes you 7 years to really build a ministry. So watch this. So if they don't come in 6 months, 7 months, 8 months, that don't mean God said shut the ministry down. See, God trying to test your heart and who you are. But see, a lot of y'all, because you don't understand the nature of what God really wants for you, you just looking at numbers, whether it be money or people. But 2020 is a mandatory release. And can I tell y'all, we're already in 2020, maybe about 2-3 weeks ago. Understand, Jesus go by the Hebrew calendar. He don't go by the Gregorian calendar that we use. So watch this. So by the time January comes, we'll already be 4 months in. Which means when God speaks to you on December the 31st, you'll already be 4 months behind. So when you hear this video, your release date already came. But because you're in religion and they ain't gonna speak what I'm speaking, you still bound. Next thing he said, I'm gonna deal with these habitual offenders. I said, ooh. I said, he talking like a judge. All these mandatory release and accelerated time for a habitual, you know who you are. The one that's still sleeping with the sheep on the side. The one that's stealing people money and they don't know it. The ones that know you don't supposed to be in ministry, but you got to follow when they give it to you. He gonna deal with you. Because watch this. Understand a mandatory release is not only understanding the mandatory release don't not only mean in bondage to the religious people or the leaders that you subject yourself to, but it also in bondage to things that you in bondage to. You got to come out of it. I know that thing get wet. When you in there. I know that thing feel good when you sitting there. Y'all know what I mean. Y'all know what I'm getting at. But if you ain't married, you gotta stay out of that thing. You know, that cooch. You know, Johnson. You know, I can't say too much because children might watch. Get to it. Huh. Just because it's safe sex don't mean it's protecting your spirit. Carry on. Habitual offender. Stay out of that man's bed. Stay out of that wife husband bed. I know what y'all doing. I just don't say nothing. Number 4. He said, when you find your mentor, your leader, your connection, you'll find your ministry. I feel sorry for so many people that I could help and still can help, but because I'm not popular, because of my ethnics and how I teach, you went somewhere else. Brother Hubbard still waiting on you. See, one thing about Brother Hubbard, I know when you call for real. That's one of my gifts. That's the apostolic Lord. I know what you called to do. But I gotta but you gotta let me know that you called to do. Then we can work on something. Fine, y'all start running to people because they're popular, because they say something that make you feel good. That don't mean that's your leader. That don't mean that's your pastor. What I told y'all, if you see this video today, go look at the one I did the other day called "What You Preaching, Preacher." And when I was, just to give you a little background, if the leader, you've been there all these years, he never, y'all can't see it, but there's a chair here. If he never set you in a chair, his office or anywhere, and had that one-on-one discussion and had his pen and his pad, okay, what you think you called to do? You're a teacher, okay. How do you know you're a teacher? What's your gift here? You know what your anointing is? Where you plan on being in your ministry in the next 5-6 years? Do you know your purpose here in this ministry? What's your strength? What's your weakness? See, that ain't your pastor if they ain't doing that. Why? Because even farmers go out and check they animals. See, it got to be a degree of respect between the leader and the sheep, whereas not only do you acknowledge their anointing, but he acknowledge yours. And if you can't do what I just said, you really weren't called to lead, because a leader would never keep a sheep in bondage to their mouth, and there's so much more in them that God got for them. That's what makes me different than other people. Number 5. He said, time's up. Understand 2020, what we actually talking about. 2020, I think number 20, biblically, it speaks of redemption or completeness of something coming full circle. So when he said, your time's up, he said, you done been around this mountain too long. Y'all been down too long. You been in religious bondage too long. You been in that marriage too long. You been in a relationship too long. He said it's time to come out. Your time up. You listen here, y'all gonna feel this when you hear this. Cause see, what I like about God, even though I'm releasing this word today, you gonna hear it on a specified time. You need to hear it. God telling you, stop being in bondage to things that serves you no purpose. Time's up. Stop hanging around. Stop hanging on to ministry because you feel a sense of obligation to him. You only obligated to God. Your time's up. You got to know when it's time to graduate. Brother Hubbard help you all he can. Brother Hubbard travels. Number 6, he said the trial is over. What trial? That trial where you keep condemning yourself. You did it. You messed up. You moved on. That's all we're going to say about it. Now, last thing he told me, which is number 7, he said, embrace the stretching. See, a lot of y'all started ministries and stopped. You got to get back out there because it's people assigned to your voice, assigned to your ministry, assigned to grow through you. But you sitting back because you ain't got no money. Because ain't nobody coming. When I started my ministry here, well, we didn't do it. The other house, y'all used to hear them people in the background. But watch this. When it comes to ministry, I got the cameras. I got all my stuff. But because he told me to start another ministry, I got to buy a lot of new stuff. But watch this. If you really call the ministry, you'll already be buying the stuff, 2 million stuff. I got the camera. Only thing, I ain't got no sound system. I ain't got the other little things you did. But I got mostly everything else. Because I got the anointing. So he's saying, you got to pick, somebody got to say something like that fire. So I hope when you hear this message, I'll let that fire back. And you get back in the ministry. Brother Hubbard here to help. I got a lot of people I help. The strange thing, I don't tell nobody that I'm helping you. 2020, the year of sight to sound. Y'all be blessed.